We experienced some technical difficulty during the filming of this presentation, which resulted in there being no sound for several minutes. The first few slides will be narrated. During the January Project Charter public forums, we asked participants to rank their priorities for the elementary school building project. This bubble diagram depicts the focus areas. A larger bubble means more people felt that topic was important. As you can see, the community members ranked site, location, and traffic, and sustainability and energy efficiency as high priorities, but there were several other topics that also stood out. The school building committee used this information to construct a project charter. It took a few meetings and quite a bit of debate, but the project charter represents the overarching goals for the project and will serve as the basis for future decisions. The elementary school will be completed on time and within budget. The project will reflect a prudent financial approach in concert with the goals and objectives of the town's master plan, school department's approved educational vision, and Massachusetts School Building Authority grant program, and be mindful of a long-term plan for the district's school buildings. 2. The elementary school design will emphasize equitable and universal access for students, staff, and the community, with a desire to become a model of inclusive design for people of all abilities. 3. The project will evaluate all feasible site locations and promote the site that best meets the needs of the district with special consideration to education, traffic, and the environment. 4. The elementary school will be resilient, energy efficient, sustainable, and affordable to operate and maintain. The project will work in conjunction with the National Grid Accelerated Performance Program to meet a low energy use intensity and criteria for LEED and CHIPS. The elementary school will offer spaces to facilitate creativity and collaboration, supporting 21st century education and diverse learning styles. 6. The elementary school will provide a safe, secure, and healthy environment for students, staff, and community. 7. The elementary school spaces, technology, and furnishings will be flexible and adaptable to meet current and future educational needs. 8. The elementary school will present an exterior design that complements Swampscott's character and surroundings. 9. The elementary school will inspire civic pride for Swampscott and be a place where the community can come together. The bullet points on these slides are comments from the community members who attended the Project Charter forums. These are your words describing your priorities. Swampscott is only a few square miles, which means there are a limited number of viable sites to build a school. We are doing our due diligence, looking at all town-owned properties. We have a traffic consultant who is weighing in on each potential site, and we are also investigating environmental and geological factors. If you want to know more about the site selection process, please come to the March 26th Site Selection and Existing Building Conditions Community Forum in B129 at the high school. Swampscott cares about the environment. The community members prioritized a building with low operating costs and durable features. We can dramatically reduce the operating costs by creating a solid envelope to the building, reducing heat loss or gain. Elementary children are curious, and the outdoors inspires curiosity. We received feedback to ensure that there were green spaces and natural light within the school grounds. A current issue in the elementary schools is that they are not accessible to all. Ensuring that every student can access the building along with staff and members of the community is a priority. Mobility issues should not prevent parents or grandparents from attending events at the school. You can see here the ramp provides access to the building, but it also creates a lobby with flexible seating. The elementary schools lack space for special education and breakout spaces for small group instruction. Community members stressed the need for equity. Community members wanted to ensure the building had the technology needed to support 21st century learning. They also wanted flexible spaces that could easily be adapted for a class or a teacher collaboration meeting. This kid seems pretty excited to present to his peers, but you can also envision the space being used for grade-level teacher meetings later in the day. Gone are the days of students sitting in rows looking at a chalkboard. Modern classrooms have movable furniture to allow teachers to create different groups. In elementary classrooms, storage areas can also double as reading nooks for students. We heard that you want this school to be able to be used by the community. This is a cafetorium. A cafeteria is one of the largest spaces in a school, but it is often underutilized. This room has excellent acoustics and a stage. It is also located in the building in a way that it can be shut off from the rest of the building. So if a group wanted to use this room as a stage during the school day, they would not be able to enter into or disturb any of the classes. During the project charter forums, community members expressed a desire for the building to fit well into the neighborhood, to focus on energy savings, but not lose sight of aesthetics. Some suggested integrating the ocean or aspects of Swampscott's history into the building. Regardless of the size of the building, people want it to have a small school feel. We can make this happen in any of the MSBA's building configurations. We do this by creating schools within a school, pods of centralized learning environments. This image shows a breakout space in the center of several classrooms, allowing teachers to collaborate and students to feel as though they are part of a small community.
And flexible multi-use space. I love this picture as well. Kids sometimes get a little messy and they need space. STEM is something that means different things depending on a child's age. So someone in high school or junior high or middle school might be building robots, but a small kid in second grade probably isn't doing that, but they need a place to just be creative. Rooms like this. We can have rooms like this in your school where the child can be creative, can get out their glue and whatever and put together all kinds of projects without inhibiting or damaging their classroom spaces. Safety and security, this is paramount. This is incredibly important, and the school that we designed for you will have all of the tools and all of the resources for a state-of-the-art entry sequence that will ensure the safety of your kids.
And as Anne mentioned earlier, there are multiple ways to separate the cafeteria space and still do it safely,
Right.
where it could be open to the community and still not disruptive to the school.
Right. Construction costs and approach. This has a lot to do with phasing and also material selection. The larger image is of a library, and it's a beautiful space, but it's also actually made out of super durable and pretty affordable materials, using a window film, using that carpet that can take a lot of wear and tear and traction from the kids traipsing around, having those ceiling clouds, exposed structure, but yet it's still beautiful and acoustically appropriate. And then when you get into construction, being mindful that swing space is expensive. So what we can do is we can build next to one building next to the other, or on a site separate to what it may be. That is to be determined. But when we make these determinations, we think about your dollar when considering it.
What I like most about this image is where the building starts becoming an educational tool as well, where kids start seeing that how a building is put together. It isn't just, brick and mortar, that there are the steams, and it's all exposed, and they can this pool also becomes a learning tool.
I like the little kid reading in the window. I think that's adorable. I kind of want to read in that window.
With that, what we asked of you guys during the first session was for you to give your feedback, and I hope that you notice that a lot of the comments on the side, I really like this pointer, that a lot of the comments on the side are from you, from this community, and what you had stated was important to you and what you valued most. We also want to hear from you again. So as we take you to the configuration options, there are 4 options set forth. The first one I'll kind of go through really quickly. Only because some of you might be the first time that you're seeing these options. So option 1 is where it's a district-wide K through 4. What does that mean? That means that Hadley, Clark, and Stanley all become offline, and we have one school that caters to all of the district kids. As Anne already mentioned, we can do this with still giving it a small school feel, that it doesn't have to feel like an enormous school. We could still make it where there's smaller areas for breakout and feel individual. It also means that a K through 4 school is being built, and Clark would be used for admin purposes. The 5th grade would remain at the middle school. Option number 2 is a district-wide grades 3 to 5. So Hadley is offline, a 3 to 5 school is being built, and Clark and Stanley would remain open as the K through 2 schools. So you still have a neighborhood feel from kindergarten to 2nd grade, and then as they progress into the 3rd to 5th grade, they would be at a district-wide school. 5th grade would also remain at the middle school. No, moves from the, sorry, 5th grade moves from the middle school. I was like, wait, I'm not reading that right. So, I know. Option number 3, K through 5 for half the district. Hadley is offline. A K through 5 school is being built. However, Clark and Stanley remain open as K through 5 schools as well. And 5th grade moves from the middle school. The only portion of this option, even though it is an option, it doesn't necessarily coincide with the desire for in-town to be equitable, which we learned from you is a valuable thing. Option number 4, it renovates and rebuilds Hadley as is. Hadley is rebuilt, renovated as a K through 4 school. Clark and Stanley remain open, and the 5th graders remain in the middle school. Again, this would mean that it would be only Hadley would have the new construction.
I want to add one little caveat to that. So one of the issues with the current schools here in Swampscott, and I believe this applies to all 3, is that they were built many decades ago at a time when standards, state standards for education, were very different. So flash forward to today, and the MSBA standards are they're bigger. The classroom sizes, the square footages are larger. We have more resources for kids and staff members, and so Hadley is 46,000 square feet. If we were to build a new school to the MSBA standards that exist today, that you want for your children, it would be 66,000. So the renovation of Hadley, a little caveat to that, is a renovation addition if you're going to bring it up to today's standards. And so I just want you to keep that in mind when you think about the renovate or rebuild Hadley. Because if we bulldoze it and we rebuild it, we're not building it exactly the same. We're building it 20,000 square feet more. And if we renovate it, that includes an addition, pretty sizable addition.
Can I say something else?
Yes.
Too? Just, I also heard, we also, as part of our discussions with the MSBA, the enrollment of this building will be slightly larger than it is today too. Only, sorry, I think it's my friend. The size of Hadley will be slightly larger population than it is today because this building will be the newest building and it will be the one that's 100% accessible. So it will house our special ed programs.
I see.
There. So it's also, in addition to being slightly larger, it's also population-wise will be larger as well.
That's good to know. Thank you, Suzanne. So what we want to do is break into small groups and sort of discuss these options and basically take the temperature of how you're all feeling for each one. We're not looking for you to give us your favorite. We're looking for you to give us the pros and cons of each one. And I see a question right here I want to address.
A really big thing for all these is how much is an estimate each one would cost. I think that's a really big factor, and I don't feel like I've heard anything about that.
Well, the cost portion of that would.
Each one, like what would your ballpark be? 1 versus 2 versus 3 versus 4?
It actually is going to be very dependent on the site selection, to be completely honest with you, because building on existing Hadley site would also have to take into consideration then it's going to have either be a phased construction or we would have to relocate all of the student population from the Hadley school, put them in modular classrooms, which have a cost associated with it, in order to tear down the school and rebuild it. Also, we are very preliminary in the stage, so unfortunately it is a process that we have to follow, and that does come. There is a point where that is determined, but it'll be as we go along and towards the end of where the feasibility ends and we make a submission. First and foremost, we first have to kind of figure out and narrow down what the options are. versus doing all 4. If there is a temperature, kind of to gauge what is the temperature in the community with these options and how they coincide with the educational visioning and the vision for the district. Along with that comes the site selection, because not all of these configurations will be able to fit in all of the available spaces that we have here in Swampscott. Unfortunately, land is at a premium here, and there isn't a lot of spaces. Granted, this is a conversation we're planning on having on the 26th of March, where we invite you to come back. But just as an example, not a lot of sites here in Swampscott can accommodate option 1. Not a lot of sites can accommodate even option 2 or 3 even. I'll give you my mic.
To add to all the caveats that Vivian said, there is one thing. The more students, is it on? Did you turn it off?
I don't think
Yeah,
you
there we
can.
go. The more students you put in the school, the more expensive it's going to be. So they scale. There's no way to give an exact price right now, but if you have a bigger school, it's going to be more expensive than the smaller schools. Added on top of all the stuff about sites and phasing.
And then the
type of
next
thing.
caveat is that renovation is always a higher cost per square foot than new.
That's true.
And let me tell you why. So that's a masonry building.
Is that a new thing? Because
No, that's not new.
historically in other states from long ago, I heard it was cheaper.
You are incorrect. Just cost per square foot.
So
But
I can speak to that.
would you like to speak to that?
Oh,
Okay.
thank you. So I do this for Northeastern University all the time, and renovation is very expensive. It's always at least as expensive as new construction, given the current building market. So that's what we see.
Let me just give you a visual, because it's a great question, because it doesn't really make sense when you hear the words come out of my mouth. I completely agree. That sounds crazy. But let me just explain a couple of things. If it's a masonry building and the room is one size, okay, say it's 100 square feet, say it's a 10 by 10, and that's a classroom. Of course, that's tiny. That would never be a classroom. But let's just say it is. And we have to make it 10 by 15. Suddenly, we're talking about demolishing a masonry wall that literally holds up the floor above it. And so now we have to go in, we have to support that floor, demo the wall, add new structure, just to make our classroom the appropriate size. And the manpower in labor and materials gets incredibly costly versus designing a building from the beginning that on day one meets these standards. Does that kind of make sense? And then on top of that, you're talking about retrofitting old systems, and you're dealing with an exterior envelope that was never meant to meet the standards that we have for today. And so you're talking about layering and layering and layering, and it's a painstaking, arduous process, but it's totally doable. But that in a nutshell is why renovation typically is more money than new construction. Yes?
My name is Gina Leger. I've been in town almost 80 years. I've been in my house on Reddington Street 60 years. I started the school thing way back when they wanted to build it on Phillips. And so I've been watching the whole plot and plan forever. Pinelli's the architect that built the high school, built Marblehead High School, built the sinking school in Lynn. And he did a PowerPoint of all the, what we should do. And he said, there's no way, and we spent a lot of money, maybe 200, maybe 400,000 to have Pinelli give us, his plan. And he said, there is no way, don't even consider renovating Hadley. It can't be done. So that should be totally scratched off to a big extent.
This is Lee Sherwood. He's the principal in charge. He's going to speak to that point.
Hi, I know who you're talking about. He's a
I would
great,
hope so. He built our high school.
right, from SMMA. I do know Phil.
Yeah.
So my name is Lee, and I wanted to, well, first of all, what we know is that there are people in this room that have a lot of experience and a lot of history with this.
Yeah.
And we welcome that. It makes us feel good to hear this. Our job right now, at the very beginning of this, is to look at it as objectively as possible, since it is a new thing. So we are looking at Hadley as one of the enrollment options, because that's what is given to us as a task by the MSBA and by the town. and we like to do a good job. The Hadley School, we're also doing an assessment of it, you know, as much as they had done before. And there was another architect who looked at it in the you know, since then. When you see option 4, it says, what it really means is renovate, add, or rebuild Hadley. In other words, conceivably, just so that we can be really straight about this, conceivably you could phase Hadley, you could build a brand new school on the Hadley site. How do you do that? You have to have swing space, you have to find places to put kids.
Correct.
But it's not
We were
about,
supposed to keep my old high school. I graduated from
Right.
Swampscott High in 1959, and we were supposed to keep, you know, we had plans. We were supposed to keep that school for our swing space.
yes.
We were supposed to go there when we did all this work, and then we went and sold it to Groom and tore it down.
Right,
And we
so-
also sold Michonne, which was a very bad thing to do, because they're doing nothing with it. And I think we should take it back by eminent domain, because they're doing nothing with it.
I hear it's gonna be made into senior housing apartments.
Pardon?
I hear it's gonna be made into senior housing apartments.
Well, it's supposed to be, but it's been 5 years since we've been letting them fudge around.
So let me just try to,
Oh, I know, they claim, but how long has it been? 5 years? We never
So-
should have let go
so
of
this
that
is
piece of property.
interesting. I want you to, I'm hearing it from your point of view. And
No, I want to find a solution too, believe me.
I want you to hear it from, so I walk in, and I'm a guy who wants to find the right solution, just like all of us. So what we're doing is we're going to the community to listen and to hear your comments, which we're taking. If something's available, we'll use it. If it's one of the benefits of coming from with a fresh view, is that I'm not encumbered by the history and the things that were possibly done in a certain order that you may look back and say, why did we do that? I look at it and I say, well, this is what we got, and this is what we got in the future, and what's the best way to solve this? So, questions about cost. We will have cost analysis of every single option that we show you after we've put them together on the sites and with the buildings. So when we look at things together, maybe this will be in about 2 months or so, when we show this all together, you'll be able to look at the cost of doing each of these kinds of options on each site, and you'll be able to tell that. I just want to tell you that, because that's part of the process.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard for me to decide, what can anyone make up which one they think is the best if you know what.
We're not asking that, yeah. that
So
was
we're
the-
not asking you which one is best. We're asking you to think about the pros and cons of each one. And we can go through a sample of that. For example, you can write down, when you go to the big one, will cost more, right? That's a con. And for the smaller one, will cost less but may not solve all your other problems. In other words, there are a lot of pros and cons to the size and to the configuration of a school. If I do a 3 through 5, I can say, but now I have more transitions, because I have 1 and 2 and I have 3 through 5. So there are a lot of things, and so what we're doing tonight is more of an open exercise. And so but we understand the bottom line. That's what I'm really trying to say, is that you'll get the bottom line. In terms of Hadley, I just wanted to explain that, yes,
Yeah, renovate shouldn't even be in there, because it's
But-
been told to
It
us
has
so
to.
many.
but
I understand.
but the MSBA, who we are in partnership with, who's paying for a bunch of this, they actually require that we look at renovation as an option. And so
Well,
we have
can't
to
you
do
go
that.
back to the PowerPoint that Phil Pinelli did?
Well, he's not working for
the.
the MSBA now, I am. You know what I mean? So the
Oh.
MSBA
So
hires,
that was a waste of
no,
$200,000,
I would put
$400,000?
it like this. I think
Well,
that in
a
order
couple
to
of other
choose
options
the
were
solution, we
to
need get
rebuild
all the
on,
facts and
on
to-
Stanley's property. Stanley has another, so another option was to rebuild on Stanley and tear down the existing Stanley, which is almost as old as Hadley.
Yes.
No, I want to solve the problem too, but I've been working on this problem since they started trying to build it on Phillips Park. So I know every step, every.
You also understand then that space in is of a limited quantity here in Swampscott.
Absolutely.
So there
That's
isn't
why I
a
would
lot
not
of
have sold
options.
my old high school, I would not have
Absolutely.
sold Michonne.
So we're probably going to look at exactly the same locations and the same sites that you did several years ago. However, the difference is that this is a new team, and with the new team comes fresh perspectives and a fresh view of it. Where the first time around, it might have been one way of looking at it, the second time around brings a clearer, different perspective and many other options that can be brought forth. For example, addressing traffic. I know traffic is of concern because at Hill International, we were the OPM that initiated the first phase. We have all of the past history and we've learned from it. We've also learned that there was, traffic was a bigger concern. It wasn't as expressed in the previous iteration as it is currently. We will be looking at traffic, learning from the past, and looking at more than one avenue in bringing traffic flow in and out of the school. We also have a completely different town administration than we did several years ago. And they have definitely been a huge asset to this project, and where they are taking more of an active role in going into the community and talking to the abutters, as one of which being the Unitarian Church that is next to the middle school.
But I live on Reddington, and like I said, I've been in my house 60 years.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it doesn't get much more traffic than Reddington Street at Hadley School. I'm
Exactly.
2 doors up from the school. I don't
Yes.
have an issue with it. I think we gotta find a place to put it.
Absolutely, and we're going to
Before
look
we
at
even mess
all
with
of,
traffic or any of that.
So let me,
Another thing that
Say
the
one
town
thing.
was,
We
but the
have an
town
op-
was also told that Clark School could go
So,
up.
I
We
just wanna-
spent
I just
all that
wanna put-
money,
we're
they
gonna-
said, Clark, we can go up. Well, that was a big lie, because
So-
I do believe we cannot go up at Clark.
We have an obligation to, and I appreciate your perspective very, very much. We have an obligation to discover and analyze all of these options, not just because the MSBA told us we have to, but we have an obligation to you. We have to prove to you, we need to show you, what is it gonna cost to renovate and add on, or just rebuild Hadley? What is it gonna cost to build a K through 4, or a 3 through 5? We need to show you, give you all the information so that you can make an informed decision.
also to show you where are all of the available sites and what it means as far as cost to build on each one of them. So it's not, we want to make sure that we're also being very transparent, that we're showing our work to you, that we have done the due diligence and we continue to do the due diligence. It isn't just a one-size-fits-all. This is your community, so we welcome your voice and we want to hear more of it. But the intent for tonight, honestly, isn't to make a determination on which one you're selecting as the option for you as far as configuration. It's to extract pros and cons.
Right.
What is it that you feel, you deem is good about option 1, and what is it that doesn't sit well with you, as well as all of the other options? Yes?
Hi, so,
David, do you want the microphone? We should probably try
what
and
I'm
bring this
interested in
in.
is, it seems, and I haven't been around to look at those options that you put up, that it's hard to evaluate a pro and con without knowing where the possible sites are that it could be. So for me, they're inextricably linked, you know, so and that's obviously gonna lead to the cost question, which to me comes kind of after we figure out the site, but anyway, if you would look at the largest school, so if we did the district-wide K through 4, right? So that would essentially be the largest school. How many kids would be in that one? 900. So like, you know, you had an idea of like how many square feet you'd need for the Hadley renovation, right? Like 66,000. So if we did the district-wide school, how many square feet do we need for that school? And then I'd like to know, because I think, and you guys can tell me, that there's some kind of a calculation that MSBA does for the amount of land you need around the building for, you know, recreation. Is that true, or am I just making that up? I thought there was some kind of requirement. I don't know.
I wanted to just hear where you're going with it.
Oh, okay, so where I'm going with it is that I find it hard to evaluate. So if I'm gonna look at option 1,
Yep.
I want to look at it and say, okay, option 1, here's the option, and these are the different sites where it could go.
That is something that we're already proposing to do on the
Is it on here?
26th. No, It is,
Well, to your point, I think that's a great pro, like a pro for just rebuilding Hadley is we have more site options for that because that's the smallest school. Like, you know, we could rebuild Hadley on that site, maybe we could rebuild Hadley next to Stanley if
Yeah.
anyone thought that was
Right,
a good
right.
idea. But maybe that's a pro, like this is the smallest school, it'll be easiest to find a site for.
Right.
And this is a con, this is the largest school, it's gonna be hard to
So I
find a
guess
site for.
my question would be, how much space is that big school going to take? And does it even make sense to be thinking about that? Because maybe we don't have the space for it.
Okay.
I don't know.
I'm going to give you what information we have.
Okay. Thank you.
This is a process, and it is earlier in the process, and I know that some of you have already been through this process a couple of times because you've lived here all your life, and God bless you. You know what I mean? To watch sometimes when you go through the process, it worked, and sometimes you go through the process and it's frustrating. What we want this process to be is transparent, non-frustrating, open, but also we want to give ourselves time to go through it. So we actually have many, many months to do this. Now, for those of you who want an answer tonight as to what we're going to do, that's exactly opposite of the way we're going to approach this. The way that we're going to approach this is to gather information, come back, show you some things, listen to you, get feedback, change it, come back, and do it again.
Sure.
I know that sounds opposite, but when we have found in the past, and it might have been your experience as well, that if we don't go to the community and ask over and over your opinion and have you help us choose the direction as a group, then it feels like when it goes to a vote that it's being just kind of dropped on people and they don't quite understand why the process went through. There are some people in the town who might be extremely educated as to what the past is, and others who this is all brand new. So we kind of have to bring everybody along. I guess that's what I'm really saying.
plus, this is your community, and we want to make sure that all of you are heard. your
No,
voices
you know,
understood.
I'm in complete agreement, and I'm by no mean meant to suggest that I want an answer tonight.
No, that's good.
All I meant was that I would have a hard time even evaluating pro and con if I just didn't know what the options were for where it could go. 'Cause
So-
that, to me, it means
So I
a
can
lot.
reveal, so right now what we're doing is, and this is all public knowledge because we're doing this, over the last month or so, we went through and met with the school board committee and a subgroup to talk about all the possible sites in your town, and there's not that many. We looked at all of the publicly or town-owned sites. We evaluated by size a little bit, and we came up with maybe about 5 places where it was possible to build a building. And even though some of them weren't great, we decided, you know, we really owe it to you to really look at them. And I'm going to tell you what those 5 sites are, because it's not a big secret. In about 2 weeks, we're going to show you evaluations of all these sites. And I hope that these evaluations will be more in-depth than what you've ever gotten before, so you can make a good. They will include environmental, they'll include traffic analysis and population densities. They'll include what enrollments can fit on that and how big that box would be and how tall that would be. Not a design, but
Right.
that kind of box. They'll include all of these different things coming together. So what I ask you is come back in a couple of weeks and we're going to have more information.
Okay, that's
But
fine.
what I will say is that we are looking at 5 sites. This is okay to say, right?
Yeah.
We're looking at 5 sites
5
right
sites.
now.
The
minutes.
It's in the minutes.
Yeah.
Anybody can come to any of the meetings.
Sure. So here are the 5 sites that we're looking at right now. Some of them are easier to imagine than others, but again, due diligence. We're looking at the DPW site with a big cliff in the middle, right? Why? Because it's land, it's a possible place to put a school, and we're looking at all of its qualities, right? It's a site. You have very few. We're looking around the middle school again in the back where the tennis courts and some of the fields are. Even though those fields were built at a different time or there's a lot of wetlands and rock, we know we're learning all about it, and we will tell you that about what all the pros and cons are for those sites and building and what the premium cost will be. We're looking at the Hadley School site because while it's very small, it's an urban site and you can build up, and it actually is very close to the center of population density in the town. And it's not a bad place to put some of the building types. We will find when we look at that some of these enrollment, for example, the 900 child school does not fit on the Hadley site, but the mid-sized ones could in an urban context. We're looking at the Phillips Park, which is I know.
That's all wetland.
Well,
A helicopter land there and it's sunk.
Oh, God.
so here's what we're doing.
Don't even bother.
The reason we looked at Phillips Park is because, and we have an environmental analysis, and there's been environmental analyses done, but see, we're not afraid of this because this is our job. We're looking at it because when you stand there and you look at it up above, oh, look at this. This looks like a good place to put a school. When you start looking below the surface, so if this is the ground and you're looking underneath, there's a whole lot of trouble at Phillips Park. But we're not going to just tell you yes or no. That's not our job. We're going to show you the environmental reasons, the traffic reasons, the water reasons, the construction reasons,
The walkability.
the walkability and all that, and also the remediation reasons, because there are it used to be a town burn site. So we're learning all about this. Now, if we went in and said, well, this really smart person in the meeting told us not to look at Phillips Park, we will not have done our due diligence. And so we're going to do it anyway, so we can show everybody what you might already know. And then lastly, we're going to look at Stanley and that area because it has a wonderful field, it has conservation land right next door, and there are possibilities for helping with the traffic and dispersing it in different ways there through the Unitarian or something like that, so that actually that actually fits the largest school, and it probably does so fairly comfortably and safely. So while some of these places look better right away to us, there's knowledge that we have to put together so that we can tell you for sure these are the issues. Because we want you to make strong, smart decisions. And when we get to the end and we put it all together, we're going to choose the site and the building size. Now wait, so the building enrollment does matter on its own. Well, I'm going to tell you right now that there is a place or two to put the 900 student school. There is a place or two to put the medium school and the small school. So just in your mind, think, there's a place to put that. What are the pros and cons? What are the benefits of having all of the schools combined? You know, financially, there are real benefits because what happens is if it costs the most up front, right? It obviously will. But then you don't have to worry about the other two schools in the next 20 years and fixing those up because you've already solved all that. What are the benefits of doing just one that's in between? Well, maybe you can retrofit one of the smaller schools and you take care of a lot of it. Educationally, there are benefits to having what we've heard from our teachers and our faculty. There are benefits to putting everyone in the same grade together in the town. When we ask what is the best way to group the children, it's not by having 3 different schools separately, because for equity reasons and for special education and all of these different things, they don't all have the same resources and the same buildings and the same stuff. But if you took all the 3rd graders and have them in the same building, I'm just using that as an example, the educators and the leadership are telling us that that's really the very best way for them to teach these kids in this, which is not a huge town, in this town. So there's a lot of information that we can use. Are you buying any of this, or you think I'm crazy? You haven't decided yet.
No, I haven't.
No, I'm just wondering.
No, I'll fight Phillips Park big time.
No, that's fine.
And you're entitled to it.
See, the way we look at it is you won't have to fight it or agree, because what'll happen is we'll give you the right information so that you
I hate to I'm of the age
I know.
And looking at Phillips Park is a waste.
Okay.
Just a waste of time, a waste of whatever you have to, I know it was a dump, it's wetlands, it was a dump, all of the above, and it won't work. But it looks like a luscious, wide open spaces, it looks fantastic.
In 2 weeks' time,
Have you not considered Clark? Although Clark is a relatively new building, but there again, you could build new on the playground and tear
Right.
down the other.
so one of the reasons why we can't consider Clark is because that playground is actually not buildable on, because it's not owned by the town. It was done by a grant that disallows it being used, yes. And so hey, we're going to give you new news.
No, I know Lynn Scott Park is the same scenario.
Lynn Scott Park is the same.
If I can be respectful of everyone's time and involvement here, we appreciate all of these comments and we welcome them. Please do come back on the 26th where we will look at different various sites. But for tonight, I want to kind of start us in the process of gathering a little bit of a hands-on activity. We're going to feel like we're all in school. And count to 4, so that way we break out into 4 groups, and each group will have an opportunity to go to each of the options and write pros and cons. And similarly as in school, each group will get their own marker color, so keep those markers with you and hand them in at the end. All right, so I'll start off right here. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. Come up, so I don't lose 2, 3, and sir, you'll do number 1, 2, 3. Gotta break you guys up. 4.
Just one?
You'll be 1.
I'll tell her. One.
2, 3, 4, and you'll be 1 as well. Okay? So if I can have all of group 1 gather around option 1. All of group 2 gather around option 2, which is right here. Group 3 at 4. And group 4 on the Group 2, right here.
It's going.
Small but mighty crowd,
Yeah,
isn't
I
it?
would say so.
Yeah, I know that. It's always entertaining.
Okay, group 4, the last group is on that one. So please keep that with you.
Just go through the pros and cons, and then each person will rotate an opportunity to get to weigh in on each one.
And you keep your color marker.
You know what I said, I think that's how that works.
Who wants to go next?
This one is to renovate or rebuild.
Oh, okay. I was doing all right. That's perfect. No, we love that. No, we love that.
Grasping for straws, I do like the current location. The current location is not a bad location for a school. Yeah.
No.
Urban contacts.
So what we're gonna do is you guys keep your mark on, we're gonna rotate to all of the options, so don't feel like.
Number one's the equity, you know, like everyone's equal. If you're all in the same school.
Urban contacts, you can go higher.
I'm the Hadley School Secretary, yes.
Yeah.
That's why they're looking at me like that. You know me.
I work at a high school.
I know that the count would be
And you're gonna do the right for them, or you're gonna have little but you guys are gonna take your marker colors and go to the next one, so that you keep your red. Yeah, I know. Just like that. Notice this is mine. Yeah, I stopped after the first. So space. We definitely want to thank you for not only coming, for participating, and for the lively discussions as well. And I kind of had a chance to walk around all the groups, and there was definitely a lot of conversation and idea exchange and that is exactly what we want, and that is exactly what we welcome. So thank you very much. Also, while we're in the mood of, giving pros and cons, I wanted to pick your brain on how we can work together in getting more people involved. This is something that is a big deal for the town of Swampscott, and we're all ears if you guys have any suggestions on how we can get more of you to come to these, or if it means for us to go somewhere where it draws a larger group and a larger community and a larger voice. This isn't a project that, we are the ones that tell you what you need. It's you telling us what you need. So how we can engage more people is really the key. That if anyone?
The robocalls, are those free for the town to do? Because if you send out a robocall a week before and say this is coming up, because I got one email.
The communication subcommittee is already taking note of that.
But you know what, you told us that the last time, and somebody told us that, and that's my mistake.
Okay.
You did mention that after the first public forum, but now we'll have it in the minutes.
But like maybe a week before, so you can plan.
Yes,
Sometimes they come out the day of.
That's a great idea, and somebody did mention it, so thank you.
Thank you. Any others?
Yes, I'm a current elementary school parent, and I know that a lot of the parents that I know are like, oh, it's going to be done after our students are out of this, so why should we care? And they should care because they're part of this town. But I think an untapped audience would be preschool parents. This would affect them. They're not really in the school systems and knowing what's going on unless they're in the integrated school. So if you could reach out to those preschools.
Absolutely, because by the time this project is done, they will be heading into kindergarten and first grade. So
that's really good. I'm a preschool parent, and I found out about this meeting this morning.
Where did you hear about the meeting?
So the director of our preschool sent an email that was sent to her by another parent.
And I was the parent that emailed.
The loop closes.
So thank you for that. But also, we have made it a point to, we have tried multiple ways to communicate this, and the better we get, the more beneficial it is. We have put out flyers at, coffee shops, at local restaurants and locations, the library, but also, I believe, Suzanne, the board that was used for election, the traffic board also. But depending on where you travel, how you travel, you might not necessarily see it. And I understand that if you have your coffee in your hand, you are not awake yet to see the flyer that is on the wall. So your suggestions are great. Preschool is a great opportunity.
If I can ask, what message would get to you? What means of communication would get out to you guys that you would see? You obviously only got it this morning through an accidental chance. What would you have seen?
Yes, well, so I did see it driving home last night, which was good because I'm on the emails, but my like brain blanked. So I was like, oh yeah, we saw that driving home. I thought we have to go. But the other thing is it's old fashioned, but even like a hard copy mailer, I'm pregnant now, so I'm not in preschool, but I have an invested interest, and there are a lot of my friends who are moving to Swampscott, and I know it's old fashioned, but just getting something in the mail even just as a reminder
Like
of what's
a small
happening.
card flyer.
Yeah.
Like a postcard.
Yeah.
I imagine you're already working on this, but just posted it on the Facebook Swampscott groups.
It is.
I only saw it on one.
Maybe we don't know about all of them.
What are some of the social media, Facebook pages?
One of the biggest pages, it's 4,000 Swampscott 01907. It wasn't
That-
on that. And it's a third of the town.
Swampscott Moms, that's actually a great one, great suggestion. Because I know that we do, I even subscribe to the Swampscott Facebook page, just so that I know what you guys are thinking and doing.
And we did, we've been in contact with the 01907 magazine, so we've been trying to get them.
I think the page is different.
Oh, it is.
But the mom's page is a great idea. Okay, any others?
There's still word of mouth, so that if each one of you brought a friend from your groups or something like that next time, we'd have twice as many people in here. I did the math.
Yes.
It's kind of silly because for the meetings in January had an actual flyer. So my kids' preschool daycare, somebody posted it up there. And this time there wasn't a flyer, there was information sent out. And I wonder if it was just stupid as that whoever posted it that first time didn't really have a piece of paper they could easily just print out and throw up on the bulletin board. So it just didn't really get there. So maybe if there's, as silly as it is, just some type of flyer that gets emailed, then that is just a way for people to just post it up on things easily.
No, great idea.
I know I was confused too on the town website, which meetings are more of like a private group? Like am I joining the committee, or which ones are public? So I looked on the website today and I assumed that it was private, and then I saw on the flashing sign that it was for everyone to go.
Public. Okay, well, definitely, yeah,
So
well,
all of our meetings
All
are
of them are?
public.
Okay. They're posted.
It's
Okay.
law.
every meeting, the reason why they get posted is because it is a public meeting and the public is always welcome. The public doesn't always attend the school building committee meetings, but you guys are always welcome to. But maybe we'll do a little bit better job of identifying it as a workshop, forum, public forum, that will be more of an identifier for you to come. Already put it in your calendars for March 26th. That one is going to be a big discussion, and we're looking to have it done on 2 days. Not just a Thursday night where it might be difficult for most parents to come out, but also a weekend like a Saturday session as well, to try to get as many people involved as possible. Any other ideas? Yes.
Well, I was just going to reiterate that point, that when you look at the school building committee site, the meetings are listed, but you just don't have a sense of, is this a meeting I should be going to or not? And if it was just like a big
Public
banner
forum.
sort of
Yeah.
splatted out there that is really easy, I mean, that should really be an easy hub for people to find.
Okay.
You know, is there a meeting coming up? And it wasn't as clear, I don't think, this time.
Yeah, great ideas. Thank you. Yes.
Swampscott Town Hall has an email list. I don't think I saw any emails about it.
So
It went out to the town hall members. But like when town hall emails us about events in town or like classes.
Oh, the rec person. Oh, that actually would be a good thing.
Yeah,
Can Danielle send that out?
Yeah,
exactly.
I mean, they're not always timely, but I do look at all those when they come in. Yeah.
it's a big.
All great
Is
ideas.
there a way for something on Paradise? I thought that sign is really helpful on the beach, but not everyone goes home that way from work. Or it's a banner.
Those signages for one-time meetings, I have to be honest, are difficult and expensive. So we were,
DPW has two of them.
I think there's better ways.
we'll look to see how we can coordinate those.
No, but you're saying.
The banner.
She
Yeah.
has the, you
No,
mean
but
the
Janelle
lit
said-
sign?
There's flashing signs say the.
Yeah.
If they can set up a different one.
Oh, so maybe we could set up one near Clark or something, like that's another.
Okay. We're not discrediting any of them. Please give us more ideas. We are, we're trying as hard as possible to attract as many people as possible. So, yeah.
Have you reached out to the senior center yet? Because I know that's often going to be a tough. Okay,
We've
great.
been posting about.
Just,
yeah.
yeah, like flyers there, or even like meetings at the senior center. My parents love the senior center. They're always there. So just,
A meeting at the senior center.
yeah.
We love
And when the farmer's market opens, if you
Yes,
can
we
be
already
there.
have that
Because
in
it's
mind.
huge, yeah, okay.
We have that in mind. We're also planning, since the farmer's market is in the quad area, right across the street from the Hadley, not even. We're gonna do tours of Hadley. My
It's gonna be
suggestion was
amazing.
food trucks. There's a great bacon food truck, so we'll see if it gets shot down or not.
It opens the second Sunday of June.
Okay. The farmer's market or the food truck?
Farmer's market.
Okay.
I'm not on the food truck committee, I'm on the
Okay.
farmer's market.
Okay. So, in closing, if there's no other kind of suggestions, if you guys have any suggestions, please feel free to voice them, and we will definitely welcome all of your recommendations in looking for new avenues to communicate, as well as if you kind of go home and afterwards you think of other pros and cons, feel free. Please, yes.
There are PTO fundraiser meetings being planned for Hadley and Clark and Stanley. I wonder if displays can be there. I don't know how actively you have presented something like that, but it would certainly be a place that a lot of elementary parents
Would be.
We've done that before.
We're taking down all the notes and we'll look to see what we can do. Yeah. And in closing, I want to thank all of you sincerely. It means a lot to us that you guys came out, that you're vocal, and you participated. So give yourselves a round of applause. And thank you so much.
That's great. I took notes so we can.